Hi everyone. Welcome back to my part 25th of Snowflake Zero to Hero series. In this video, we are going to discuss about the task. The simple things, if you have to automate your data pipelines within the Snowflake, if you just have to basically make a or orchestration of your workflow, you wanted to schedule some code, then we will be using a task. Just imagine that we in previous videos, we have seen how we are going to manually run the copy into commands. If the data is coming from the aws s3 or adls or gcs, you can probably check my part 15th or part 4, 14 15th. There we were running a copy into command manually. But what if we have to create a multiple like steps? So once the data come into the AWS S3, it should be loaded at let's say 3 p.m. every day. And after that, we need to perform some data cleansing task. Let's say some null check or some distinct or some duplicates values removal and like these kind of a transformation you're doing. And at the third step, it should check whether the stream has data or not, and if it has, then it should trigger a fourth task or something. So in the Snowflake, task enables the automation, scheduling, and optimization business process within your data pipeline. You can basically you can work with this Snowflake task and the stream to design a continuous ETL workflow. There we do have two types of task. One is the user managed and second is the serverless. Now let's look at this kind of a syntax which we will be using. Okay, there are certain parameters which you will be using depending on your requirement. These are like optional parameters, so I'm not going to use all these parameters in this video. However, I'll just you can go through with the documentation to understand that, but I'll try to give you the important parameters details. We can run below commands like a create task, alter task, drop task, show task, or describe task. So if you have to check how many tasks you do have in your particular database, you're going to run a show task just like we executed for show views and all, and then we will be like creating it. These are few parameters like create task. Then you need to give a warehouse name, a user task in manage initial warehouse size when you are going to schedule it. So let's look at it. So okay, now let's see that. So I am going to select this analytics. This one, YouTube Learning Database, and here I do have the raw layer. Now if I see that whether do I have any task or not, so I'm just going to run the show task. Okay, yeah, I can see that there is a first task for me, which is in this, and it is actually being used with the help of the Chrome tab. I don't know, like when I created it, okay, but let me just drop the star. Okay, so now I don't have any task. There are two ways to create it. Now, Snowflake recently made a good addition, or I'll say it help you to create your task from the Snowsight UI itself. So if I come over here and then I'll come into the data to like particular database. So first I'm showing you with the help of the UI that how much control you do have right now. Earlier this option was not available. You'll come into that particular database where you wanted to create it. Then in this particular raw layer schema, and here you can click on the task. When you are going to click on create task, it will allow you to create this kind of a simple thing. Okay, now if I'm just going to write create task, my first task, and the warehouse, I'm going to give compute warehouse, and after that I'm just scheduling it. So this one I'm going to schedule after 2 minutes. Either you write m or min, that's it. And after that, you just need to write a SQL statement, and that you can use anything. So in task, you can not just run the SQL statement, but you can also run your stored procedures. Okay, or you have any scripting logic that you can just execute over here. So make sure that if whatever, let's say this copy into command or insert, or let's say some like getting a data, copying the data from here, that you can run. Okay, so in Snowflake, we can execute a stored procedure. We can write some kind of a complicated procedures like generating reports or performing periodic table maintenance, or you can like even insert or copy into command. Now I'm just writing select star select one. That's it, and I created it. Invalid schedule was specified. That's probably had been changed or what? Okay, it should be M, sorry. Now, if you will come into it, here you will be looking at all these things in the UI. There you have a task details. You can easily check basically whatever the details you have. You will be seeing using a show task. The state is suspended. The auto suspend failure, which is basically default, we did not set this parameters. The timeout parameter we did not set, and this is the task ID, and this is a task definitions. So based on that, you can just see that these suspend and timeout parameter, these are the defaults, and there are a few other defaults parameter we also have. Now, the account admin is the owner, and if you will come into the graph, you will find that this is just in suspended mode. However, if you want to edit that or control it, you will just simply click on three dots and click on edit. Now, in this, the task name is going to be the this first task. You cannot edit. You can only and only drop or replace the task to change the name. But there are the two ways. One is the user manage and serverless, as I mentioned earlier. So the serverless means here the Snowflake will be taking a control to assign the compute machine. But in the user manage, because I have mentioned the compute warehouse, and I can even change to like any of this, let's say the higher size, like if you wanted to scale. Suppose there is a complex stored procedure which may require larger sources, then I can just simply come over here and can run it. So in the background, it is going to run a alter task commands because we are editing it. However, if you say that I'm not sure whether this large, medium, or extra large I should give, so you're just going to simply choose to the server list. That means the Snowflake will be managing all this compute machine depending on the kind of a complex load which he's going to handle. Now you see, as soon as I clicked on it, the option which I was getting earlier has been disabled. The reason, because Snowflake will be assigning the task. One more thing, in the user managed warehouse, I have already discussed that we can go from extra small to 6XL. However, in this compute serverless, we can only and only have the maximum size of 2XL. Now, the next, whether do you want to schedule it? Yes, I'm going to schedule it. And this is where you can use even a cron expression. So we have two options to schedule a task. One, after some minute interval, let's say like 2 minutes, 60 minutes, 180 minutes, or 100 minutes. But suppose if I wanted to schedule at a particular time or a particular day, then this thing cannot be achievable with the help of time interval. So I will be using a cron tab or cron expression. Now, if you are not familiar with the cron, then you can simply write cron tab guru, and there you can check how you are going to set the expression. So like this, it is at 4 or 5, but let's suppose I wanted to run at every day at 9:30 a.m. So here, this is going to be minutes. So you're going to write, and this is going to be 9. So at 9:30. Now, if you say no, it should be only and only run on the Monday. So at 9:30 on Monday. So like this, you're going to schedule it and the same thing, but here it is going to give you much flexibility that you can just simply say when you want it to run hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, or custom. If I go and click on custom, there you can choose and you can copy the expression which you're going to copy from here. Okay, but you say no, not custom. Let me just go it to schedule it weekly on Monday at what time zone, and then if you're going to click on show SQL, you will see this is going to alter the task. So first, it is going to unset the warehouse to make it serverless. Second, it is going to schedule it using the cron. But this is how you can do it within the snow site only. If you do not have much idea about this kind of a coding, or you do not want the coding, then you can like basically go from it. Now, if you want to trigger it manually, then for that you can just simply check this option here, and this you can click on that. And this task first task is scheduled to run immediately. Now, if you will come into the run history, then you can see this got triggered at 9:15 a.m. This 961 milliseconds it took. The status we can see it's a succeeded. There you will be finding the other color like the red color also for like failures and all. And this is just for one task. However, in your real-time project, you may have hundreds of tasks, and that way you can just simply go in the run history. But for that, you can use the information schema run history. Okay, so this was all like coming to the graph. If you have a parent child, let's suppose after this first task, you wanted to create another task to be executed, that flow will also be there. Means it's a completely going to create a DAG for you. There you can there you can find your task graph. Okay, suppose I wanted to run but like in simple word, in a one simple example, that I am planning that if my uh, if I'm getting a good appraisal, then I'll go for a trip. So my trip ticket booking is actually dependent on that, on the previous task, that is basically I need to get a good appraisal. Okay, so in this we will be like we call it as a task graph. So we have to understand the task dependencies. Okay, so a few things, let me just go and for before discussing the task graph, let me show you how we are going to create with the task and all over here. Okay, so in this, I can simply then create task. I guess we have already created, or yeah, this create task, and the task name is going to be, I'm just going to use create or replace task, first task. And then I can use a warehouse keyword. I will be using a schedule keyword, this parameter, sorry. And then we have the other option, other parameter also, like allow overlapping execution users. So this allow overlapping execution means if I have scheduled one task, let's suppose like after every 5 minutes, by default it's false. So that means if my that previous execution is taking more than 5 minutes, the next consecutive task will not run. But if you want to run it, then you have to set it as true. Then we have your user task timeout. So if you wanted to set a timeout, then you can particularly say 10 minute. If you remember that there on the UI, we were getting like a 10 minute. Okay. Suspend task after number of failures. Let's suppose that if it get failed 5 times, then there you do not want it to run again and again and wanted to optimize your cost, then you can simply set this parameter. The next we have this error indication and success indication. In case of failure, you want to get notified over your email because I or anyone is not going to regularly check the task history. For that, we will be setting up an error indication, and this I hope you like have seen my part 17 where I have configured a snowpipe error indication that we can utilize here. The next we have that this user task minimum trigger interval in seconds, after, when, and these three like target completion interval, serverless task min state size, and serverless task max statement size. These are the parameters only for the serverless task. So this after is to create a dependency, to create a task graph. When is to create a kind of a trigger task. Let's suppose that if I am checking whether this stream has data. So I have created a stream on customer table. Now, if there is any DML changes captured to that stream, then only this task needs to be triggered. Then I'll be using when. But after is that first task will create, after second, after third, after fourth, like kind of a creating a task graph. And this target completion interval means if I am saying that my task should be only and only executed under 5 minutes, then the Snowflake serverless is going to assign that kind of a compute machine to that particular task to get it done the things within 5 minutes. That next is serverless task minimum statement size and serverless task max statement size. That means if I wanted to say that for this, even serverless is going to run, then the minimum it should have a medium or the maximum it should have large, then you can set the task size over here. So that's how you can do that. Now let's look at just to show you the complete flow. First, I'm going to create one table which is task test. Okay, it's a very simple table I'm creating just to show you whether it is working or not. So for that, I'm going to run create or replace task test, and here I'm going to add ID and details. And second, I'm also creating a sequence. Okay, this sequence is like auto increment number, and that I'm creating sequence with one increment by one. Now, if I look at the data into the task that there should not be any data because I just created. Now, I wanted to dynamically insert or basically insert the data at a regular interval period of time. It's just an insert statement I'm using. However, you can run a multiple copy into command. And in fact, when I will be showing you to implement the SCD, then you will be having a complete workflow understanding. Now the next is I'm going over here, insert into task test, and I'm inserting these value. So I'm using a sequence for next value, task inserted the record, and then if you will look at it, I can see this one task inserted. Now, so same thing, I'm gonna do it again, and then it will be having another value. Okay, now why this is 1 or 101 is coming, if you will look at the sequence documentation, you will understand it. But anyways, that's not the point to discuss over here. Now, I cannot do it manually again and again, so let me help you with that. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to recreate these objects again and again. And now I will be creating a task. This task I'm going to create to schedule at 1 minute. So this is user manage server, like user manage task. I created a first task, schedule it, and in this as I'm giving this SQL statement. So this most of the time you will be using this one. Now, what is the maximum time you can set it for this schedule here? Okay, that is one question. So first thing. I created this task, first task. I do have this one. And here, if you will look at it, if you will scroll to the right, you will find that this task is still in suspended mode. That means it will not trigger. So for the very first time, when you create a task, you have to manually enable that or manually resume that. For that, you're gonna run a below command alter task first task resume. And now, if you will look at the show task, if you will scroll to the right, your task is started. Let's understand these parameters also. When it got created, the task name, the ID, this is going to be a root or like a unique identifier, the database name, the schema name, the owner, and this compute warehouse, which machine is associated with it. This when it is got scheduled, that like it's scheduled at every 1 minute. The producers means whether it has any parent task associated with or not. So yes, this is only a parent task, so there is no other parent of its state is started. This is the definition, and this is basically a condition. If I wanted to write any condition or no error indication you wanted to give, you can set it over here. Allow overlapping execution is false, as I mentioned that by default it is going to be false. Then the last suspended and task relations, so this we have a success indication. Target completion interval we have not given because it's not the serverless one. Okay, now if you will look at it, look at the data, whether this data got inserted or not, I can simply run select star from task test, and there I should see some records. And here you see this is one task and set it this record. How would you be like sure that whether this got executed or not? By just looking at the information schema task history. So this table is going to give you an idea about all the tasks getting executed in that particular Snowflake. Okay, now this task history is going to give you whether this task got completed or not. If but there is one problem here. The problem is here I can when I executed it, it is showing for most of the task. Although I can see this is first task, this select one, this is insert into task test value, this is succeeded, and this is scheduled. But what if you have hundreds of tasks and you wanted to check a particular task? So this will show entire history. However, to check particular task history, what we'll do, we're going to write, just going to take the same query, and in this we will be giving some parameters, not only just like particular task but at a particular interval, like it the schedule, it should be suppose like from last one day only, then also you can do this. So in this task I'm going to write first task, and let me run this. Now when I have given it, you can see that this is only and only going to show you the task history of it. This query ID is null, but these we have the query ID. Why? Because this first line is still showing in the scheduled phase. So that's why we don't have it. Now you can see the error code, error message, schedule time, start time, next schedule time, the completion time, root task ID, and everything you are going to run it. And you can even check it whether it was executed after scheduling or you manually executed it. Okay, so that's how you can get a complete information about your task history. And if in case you wanted to check it only for particular time duration, then you can give a scheduled time range start. That's it. And then excuse me, and then you can even run a time range end, the same. And that's how you can give it over here. Okay, now let's jump to the another thing. I was just checking that what is the maximum time interval we can set it over here. That let's look at it. I'm sure I would be having another task. No, no. Okay. So if I'm going to create another task, or I'm just going to going to take it. So first thing, I'm just going to do a suspend it because I do not want it to run multiple times and all. So second one. So let's say, can I do it like 500 minutes? It worked. Can I make it 1000 minutes? It worked. Can I make it 10,000 minutes? It worked. That means what? That what is the maximum minutes we can schedule? Like I can put it over here. That is 11,541. If I'm going to pick it, it will throw an error. Why? Because maximum we can do it 11,520 minutes, which is exactly going to be 8 days. So the maximum interval we can set in terms of minute is 11,520 minutes, but it is going to be a 8 days interval. So if I have to create any kind of a monthly or weekly or yearly, which we have seen into the Snowsight UI, for that you will be using a cron expression. Okay, so let's just create another task with the help of cron. And in this, you can simply use, and this is a serverless cron task. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to write create a replace task cron task. Then I am not passing any warehouse. The reason, because it will be a serverless and the cron. So I'm going to use this expression only, that I wanted to run at 9:30 on Monday. I'm going to use it. And here, wait a minute, sorry. I will be using this, and then this is the time zone. And after that, I'm just using this cron task inserted. So then we can identify, yes, it was working fine. Now, if you will look at it, that when it got scheduled, because there should not be any history, right? So if I'm going to write, gonna copy the task history from the only, and in place of first task, I'm using this cron task and going to trigger it. There is no task history for it. Why? Because it's not even scheduled. It's not. It's in a suspended mode. Okay. So for that, right now we should be having a three task. Now I'm going to run show task command, and then in our this particular database I have these three. The warehouse is null, that means it's a serverless. Schedule is using cron, but everything is a suspended mode. So if I wanted to make it with wanted to check it the history of it, then first I have to enable it, that you can use with the help of resume. Okay. Now, let's create a parent-child task hierarchy. So, what I'm gonna do is, I have this task test table. Now, I'm going to create a child task table. So, I am creating another table called child. And in this one, if you will look at the syntax, if you will look at the syntax, then what I'm gonna do, this one, let me call it as a parent. Okay, and this is child. So this parent task I'm running at every 1 minute and inserting into the same thing, like a parent task inserted this record into the task test value. However, in the task child, in the child, I'm inserting the child, but look at it. Okay, it should not be there. It should be like, it should be triggered after parent. I'm not setting any schedule. So if I run it and then look at this child task, after that, if you're gonna if you will be checking show task, then look at one thing. I'm just created on based on that. You will be seeing these are the child and the parent. If you'll scroll to the right, this schedule is 1 minute. For this, there is no schedule because it has a dependency, right? Next, if you'll scroll to the right in the predictions, you find this raw layer parent. That means this prediction, this task is having a this as a parent task. So it has a dependency on this parent task. Now, both are suspended. So just to check the complete workflow, what I'm going to do is I'm coming into this database. Let's see how this task graph look like, or whether this task graph is there or not. Okay, I just need to check it. So I come into the task, and here I'm going to refresh it. So let's look at the parent child. And if I come to the graph, you see this parent and the child. You can even create a multiple childs, and one child can have two parents, like it should have a dependency on two tasks. That also you can do it. Okay. So that is how you like your workflow. So let me actually show you this task graph here. I guess it's a Okay, so task, it's a nothing, it's a kind of a DAG. It's going to be a series of tasks composed of root, child, and all. And the diagram it's going to be look like. So it's like it's going to be a parent task. So which is going to trigger three child task, and then this every sales tables is basically will be inserted only once these three are going to be executed. So it's going to be like a root task, child task, and this is how you after that you are creating the sales table and sending the data. So in this, it would be clearly mentioned here somewhere. This example showing it. No, 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 no. Yeah, you can see this task B and C to run simultaneously and task D run when both task B and C have completed their run. So D is going to be dependent on both B and C. Okay, and once B and C, like if it is going to take 2 minutes and it's going to take 10 minutes, then D will trigger after 10 minutes. And one more thing, a task graph can have maximum of 1000 tasks and single task can have maximum of 100 parents and 100 child tasks. Okay, so that's, you can go through with it, but I just wanted to highlight few these points. Okay, and you can have an n number of series, like you can have like 5 10s depending on the kind of a ETL workflow which you are designing here. Okay, let's go back to home now. I'll check this here. And let's see that one more thing, one important point. When we create a child and a parent task, the first thing which you need to mention is, let me, this is a parent. If I am going to run this parent resume before the child task, it will work. But there is a problem. If you are going to now resume the child task, it will throw an error. So make sure before changing the state, oh, wait a minute, it's a child only. Yeah. Before changing the state of child task, your parent task should be in the suspended mode. I'm repeating it. Either you want to resume your child task or suspend your child task. It should be it should be basically your parent task should be in this suspended mode. So to make it enable, first you have to suspend your parent task, then it is going to resume your child task. After that, you're going to resume your parent task. And now if you will look at the show task here, and if you will look at it, both are scroll to the right. This is started and started. So we'll look at some data into the task test. So there should be like parent task inserted this record. That means it's still not get executed. So we'll wait for 1 minute and it should be triggered, and immediately we should see some data into the child task also. Okay, I guess it should have now something. Select star from task test. Yes, look at this. Parent task inserted this record. And if you will look at select star from child, there is a data over here. Okay, so that's how you can just check it and you can test it. You can work on your parent task, parent or child task hierarchy. All right. So I hope you have understood how you're gonna do it. And now, if you will come to the snow site, your YouTube, in this your particular role here, and the task here, you can even check the task graph. So let's say it's going to be parent, and the graph, if you look at it, and sorry, the run history command also, it should be there. We can check it that yes, it is going to be executed over here. And if you will look at the task graph, so that's how it's going to be shown over here. You can change it from last 7 days to last 28 days for what you wanted to check it. You can refresh it if it is there or not. So that's how you can check it. Okay, I hope you have understood these concepts, and if you have any questions, feel free to write into the comment box. Thank you.